Andrew, with all the associations now with this additional liquidity, how do we protect it? How do we invest it? What are the different options?
It's a good question. When we think about liquidity, we're going to go back one step, and we're going to go to the reserve study. We have to understand, and the boards have to understand, when are these projects that they're reserving funds for? When are they coming due? What is the size, the scope, and the cost of these projects, so we can line it up. So once we know that liquidity position, we can start helping what to keep, what is truly liquid, so in a money market form, and then what else can we invest? And then we start moving into some other parameters. The first one is safety, and the second one is then yield. I know that's kind of inverse. We might take it a little bit differently in terms of our risk position on our personal funds, but our communities are not risk takers. We have to protect their funds as best as possible, but then maximize their yield. And so once we have that reserve study and the framing of what the future looks like, then we can start thinking about those investments in more long-term. So when we think long-term, it's not 10 or 20 years that those reserve studies are actually pointing to. We generally stay in the 1 to 3 year range. When we think about if interest rates are rising, we're going to go a little shorter on that term. If interest rates are falling, we might look to go a little bit longer to extend out the yield. And that's how we maximize the protection, liquidity, and the yield for our communities.
So how do we go about protecting the funds now?
I did mention about safety, and when I was referring to the investment of those funds, I was more talking about principal protection. I think the other aspect of safety comes in for fraud tools and fraud protection, because that's a huge exposure that these communities are facing today. And we're not talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, we're talking millions of dollars that is out there in being invested and being put to use. So we need to think really hard about what tools we work with the boards on doing that. I think the most important aspect is, first and foremost, and believe it or not, is that board members should not be signers on these accounts. Board members should rely on their managing agents to be the control aspect of the funds disbursement, because we can put the proper processes in place for where these funds need to go. But at the same time, the boards are making the decisions on the investments. So they control not only where they're invested, but also the withdrawal of those funds to go back and use for the capital projects. So that's important. We have to eliminate paper. In this day and age, paper checks are the most exposed the type of payment that's out there. So we want to do that. And then protect the electronic funds as well. And we do that through fraud tools, whether that's ACH filters or check blocks. Those are important things of doing. And that's what we do within our partner banks, that we can control the disbursement of those funds and protect and make the boards as much yield as possible.
Great tips for the board.
Yeah, thank you.